Good morning, everyone. As my introduction said, I work for the Toronto and Region Conservation Authority, and as a good scientist, I'm going to announce right now my bias is to the TRCA and the TRCA jurisdiction. For those of you that are not familiar with the TRCA, we have 9 watersheds, and we include the City of Toronto, portions of the regions of Peel, York, and Durham. We stretch from Mississauga to Ajax along the Lake Ontario waterfront, and from Orangeville to Uxbridge across the Oak Ridges Moraine. A very rapidly urbanizing jurisdiction, includes Seaton. TRCA has memorandums of understanding with our municipalities to undertake natural heritage review under the PPS. And in terms of the Endangered Species Act, we do refer proponents to the Ministry of Natural Resources. But we're in a paradigm of overlapping objectives and approvals. And to that end, we have a relationship with our district M&R office, Aurora District, in particular Melinda Thompson, who comes and meets with us on a monthly basis where we can discuss files, we can discuss opportunities, and try and not trip over each other's feet. Oops. So in preparing for this, I was asked to look at challenges and innovations, and there are many challenges, so I chose just to pick one. Because I'm getting old and that's all I can handle at any one point in time. And I think John Riley talked about this a bit yesterday. Populations of certain endangered species are concentrated in landscapes that are undergoing significant changes in land use. In the TRCA jurisdiction, a large percentage of the applications and permits we see have the potential to trigger a permit under the ESA. Many of our mid-reaches and headwaters are habitat for red-side dace, and the agricultural lands that are now urbanizing often support bobolink and meadowlark, or as my friends at Aurora District call them, bobolarks. The result is that there are overwhelming numbers of requests for screenings and permits. And I think we're spending too much time and resources getting through the process, and perhaps not enough time looking at whether our overall benefit activities are in fact achieving the outcomes we need. What I heard at the presentations yesterday and this morning from agencies, from industry, from consultants, from everyone, is that we all feel like we're prisoners of the process. So I started to look at innovations, and when I did up this slide, I realized very quickly it's not particularly innovative. It seems more like common sense, but I'm going to go with it anyway. What I want to talk about is, restoration opportunity banking, or having some kind of suite of endorsed, or a bank of endorsed projects that proponents could access to streamline their process and to ensure that we're getting good projects done. Looking at aggregating overall benefit activities. Is it in the best interest to have a bunch of small projects, or is there merit in looking at taking the overall benefits from a number of permits and using them towards one big project? And I wanted to talk about the role of the conservation authorities and municipalities. We have something to offer and to bring to the table. First is we're large landowners. Now, I say that with some caution because not all of the public land has been acquired for pure conservation purposes. Some of the lands have been acquired for purposes such as outdoor recreation or public infrastructure, but nevertheless, we own a lot of land. The municipalities in particular, and the CAs to some extent, have an understanding of where the land, what the land use planning in the future is going to be in a given municipality or area. We know where the next wave of development is. We know what that development might even start to look like. So it's important because when you're looking at overall benefit, the last thing we want to do is do overall benefit, put that project in harm's way of the next wave of development. In addition, we have the knowledge of the watersheds. In TRCA's perspective, we have collected natural heritage information on about 75% of the habitat patches within our jurisdiction. We have undertaken the development of watershed plans for all 9 watersheds that laid out objectives for management and restoration. We have developed fisheries management plans for our watersheds, as well as other strategic plans such as our terrestrial natural heritage system strategy. The bulk of this work has been supported and financed by our municipalities. We've also taken a look using our watershed planning and fisheries management planning and knowledge of the watershed, been working to develop a database of what we call restoration opportunities. These include riparian, in-stream, terrestrial, meadow, and so forth. And we have varieties of details. Some of them are just sketchy, and some of them are fairly well fleshed out. But it's taken us about 10 years to pull this information together, and we have an inventory of between 6,000 and 7,000 sites. So as you can see, our watersheds need a lot of help. While these restoration opportunities are not specifically focused on species at risk, we take a broader approach to ecosystem management, looking at our overall objectives for healthy rivers and shorelines and regional biodiversity. But despite that, many of these sites could provide species-specific benefit at a site. As I said, most of this work has been supported financially by our municipalities, and we've been working with them because they've been looking for opportunities for restoration or compensation for activities they're undertaking. And we've been using this with them, trying to manage their strategic directions in terms of restoration and activities on their landscapes, as well as the strategic directions that we've identified through our watershed planning and natural heritage planning activities. We think there's room for the province to be at the table in this when we're looking at overall benefit for endangered species and fitting these activities into the overall objectives of watershed health and regional biodiversity. And I just want to highlight one project. These lands are known as the Brock North lands. They're in the eastern part of our jurisdiction, right on the eastern edge of Seton, in fact. These lands were owned originally by the City of Toronto. They included a landfill and a bunch of borrow pits. The landfill has been decommissioned and removed, but these lands came to us in 2011, I believe. At the same time, MTO was doing their work for the 407 extension. They needed to provide overall benefit for Redside Dace, and in a collaboration between the Ministry of Transportation and Warren May of the Aurora District M&R offices, we looked at the overall restoration plans for the Brock North lands. And in fact, 3 of the overall benefit sites for their 407 project are part of the Brock North plan, Site 1, Site 2, and Site 4. But the beauty is that these sites are nested within a larger suite of ecosystem restoration projects that we think will provide the synergistic outcomes that we really need to have biodiversity and endangered species persist within our landscapes for the long term. Thank you.